Hello and welcome, I'm SimUK. Today I'm going to share with you the unboxing, setup procedure, some gameplay footage and my first thoughts on the Oculus Quest. I know that many of you are short of time, so I won't beat around the bush. The QCR is this. Oculus Quest. Is it any good? Hell yes. Oh my god. It is so good. It is so amazingly good. It's an absolute game changer. And yes, I admit it did cost nearly twice as much as my Rift, but it is so much better than the Rift. In almost every department, the visual clarity is much better. Everything seems far more vibrant. It's really, really, really good. Not to mention the fact that it's independent of any PC, so you can pick it up and take it anywhere and get a true, authentic VR experience. The enhancements that the software has received in terms of setting up, setting boundaries, just the whole menu system is just vastly improved again over what we had on the Rift. And it makes everything so much easier, so much more streamlined and simple to do. There are now cameras which have been set into the headset itself. That does make the headset slightly heavier. One or two people have commented on the fact that it feels quite heavy, but to be honest with you, I really don't notice it. And the reason why I don't notice it so much is because the head strap that holds the Quest onto your head is very similar, if not identical, to that which is on the Rift. And I've got to say, I think it's faultless. The Rift, in my humble opinion, was almost perfect. The only thing that it possibly lacked were the external cameras and the position of the menu buttons on the controllers I felt were in the wrong place. But other than that, it was damn near perfection. So the cameras in the front do add a little bit of weight, I guess, to the device, but it's so well balanced that I personally don't notice it at all. My daughter has played it, she's only 7, my wife has played it, my son has played it. The only person who complained about the weight was my son, and I rather feel he was influenced by reviews that he's seen on YouTube rather than actually physically having any kind of noticeable weight at the front of the device. That's not to say that there isn't any, there is. And the way that the Oculus Quest is designed, especially with the foam inset, it does feel like it's putting more pressure on your face. It's less spongy than the Rift, so it does, when you've got it tight up against your face, it does kind of make more of an impression, I guess. But whilst you're actually playing, it's not something that I noticed at all. It's when you take it off, you can really sense that. It's just not quite as comfortable on the eyes as the Rift was, but everything else, oh, massive improvement. There are going to be less games available to the Quest specifically, as in games that are designed specifically for the Quest, and Rift games were not going to be available to the Quest itself. But fortunately, one of the major contributors to changing my mind about whether or not to invest in a Quest is the fact that they're going to release a cable which will allow you to connect to your PC and play Rift games. Now, I haven't tested this out. There are some YouTubers who have had some success with this with unofficial cabling, but I'm going to wait until the official cable is released, because where the Quest has a lower FPS, I am a little bit concerned or dubious about how well PC games are going to fare in the Quest. I'll be honest with you, if it can gain those extra 18 FPS and start playing at 90 FPS, it's going to be sensational. If that's possible, if that ever becomes possible, then hands down this is the best VR device available today at this price, without a shadow of a doubt. Wireless gaming for the Rift was made possible via the purchase of third-party hardware attachments that you can attach to the back of the headset. I never actually bought into that because they're quite expensive. To have completely independent VR gameplay available to you is just mind-blowing at this stage in proceedings. The fact that you can just pick it up and take it anywhere and play anywhere. They do recommend you don't play outside, and I think that's possibly due to the fact that you are going to have uneven surfaces and people milling about that you might not see necessarily. But quite realistically, playing outside is viable and certainly an option to people. And, you know, there's no furniture in your garden, or hardly any furniture in the garden. So there's certainly a lot of promise to playing in the garden, I guess. Something I'm definitely going to be trying out when the weather improves slightly. But I've got to say, in terms of VR and VR gameplay, I've always felt like a bit of a pilgrim. I want to share the VR experience with people, and watching people play VR for the first time, it's quite an experience. It really is. It's thrilling and very exciting. I've got to say that the new Quest now makes it possible to just pick it up and take it to people. So I can now take this VR experience to people instead of expecting them to come to me to experience VR for the first time. And that alone is amazing. The Oculus Quest comes in a packaging which is really, really good. It's so good that you could easily use it to keep your Oculus Quest safe when you're not using it, when you want to store it away. It's not so good for transportation though. So really for that, what you need is like a safety box, a traveling device that's designed specifically to transport the Quest from A to B. I have ordered something. I spent a lot of time looking at the options available, and I think I found quite possibly the best product at a very reasonable price. And I'll be putting that into a review video soon. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye open for it. Now, like you, I've heard some scare stories, if you will, about the Oculus Quest having very low FPS and inducing nausea, and the audio quality being less than exemplary. There are two things that definitely concern me and definitely delayed my purchase of a Quest. Having now purchased one and tested it for myself, I can say that neither of these two things are particularly an issue of any sort. The audio especially is astoundingly good. So in the Oculus Rift you had these attached headsets effectively, which you would put down over your ears. Now the audio that was coming out of them was absolutely staggering. It was really good. The 3D audio really added to the VR experience. I was massively impressed with them. With the Oculus Quest, they've gone. Now where the audio is coming from is the headset itself, and I am amazed, truly amazed at how good it sounds, considering there is no physical device touching your ear at all. Now the downside of that is that everybody around you can also hear what noise is coming out of the Quest. They can hear the game that you're playing. Now that might not be ideal in every situation. So on the sides of the Quest there are two individual ports that allow you to plug headphones in. I'm going to do a review on a couple of headphone sets that I've ordered for the Quest as well. Unless the audio coming out of the speakers is a problem in some way, then you don't need anything. The audio coming out of the Quest already is absolutely amazing. But, and there's a caveat to that as well, because previously when you were playing the Rift, if you were playing, for example, Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, it was quite difficult to hear the people in the room who were giving you advice and telling you how to disarm the bomb. With the Quest, that isn't going to be an issue because they can hear what you can hear and you can hear them as well as everything that you're doing. So there are caveats to it. To be honest with you, I think it's astounding what they've done with the audio again. Oculus just seem to nail the audio every time they do something. And every time they do something, it's new and it's unique and it's individual to them, and massive kudos to them. They've done a superb job with the audio. Now for the FPS, it's fair to say, or I have to say, that the Quest is running at a lower FPS than the Oculus Rift was capable of. It's got much greater clarity. It's far more vibrant than the Rift. Now, the Quest is running Pentile OLED 1440 by 1600 per eye, running at 72 megahertz. If somehow Oculus could find the additional 18 FPS to bring that up to 90 FPS, then this thing would just be off the charts good. That being said, I haven't really experienced any problems with it. The very first time that I played Oculus Quest, the very first time, I did feel a tiny little bit nauseous at the end of my game stint. And I was playing for about an hour and a half, maybe something like that. I just felt the tiniest bit of motion sickness. Ever since that, all the games I've played since then, I've been absolutely fine. And I think it was just about acclimatizing to it. If anything, it's the rim that goes round the Quest, which presses in against your face. That's quite a bit harder than the Rift is. It's not quite as soft on your face. And if anything, I would attribute that nauseous feeling to that extra pressure around your sinuses. But quite simply, with a bit of strap adjustment and a little bit of experience in using the device itself, that's all gone. I haven't had any issues with it at all, other than that very first time. I have noticed that when the battery is running low, there can be some micro stutters. They're not significant. The game continues. It's a bit immersion breaking. That's probably about as far as I would go. But as the battery starts running down to its lowest point, you'll find that happens more and more. It's fair to note that during all of my gameplay experiences, I have been casting to my mobile phone, which I'm recording on. So there's additional battery use and network use going into that. And I think that's probably making things more obvious than really is the case. Prior to that, I mean, when you charge it up fully and you start playing, the gameplay experience is smooth. There's no glitchiness, there's no stutters, there's nothing at all. It's really incredibly impressive. It really is. For a completely standalone device, no PC connected whatsoever. I'm impressed, really impressed. And actually, whilst I'm sort of talking about the whole casting aspect of the Quest, now there's a whole department that I want to get into where the Quest is looking really quite promising, being able to cast directly to OBS and put you in the gameplay footage yourself. I know that's not new, but to be able to do that on a completely standalone device, that is impressing me no end. So yeah, just the fact that the ease by which you can cast to a television, to a PC, to a phone, to anything at all, it's impressive. It really is impressive. If you're not into VR at all, just that feature alone should be enough to make you go, that's pretty cool. So it takes about an hour and a half. I haven't actually timed it to perfection. It's over an hour to go from completely run down. 15% battery to full battery takes just over an hour in my experience. Just over an hour, about an hour and a half, I think. And battery life is supposedly going to be between 2 and 3 hours on normal gameplay. That's without casting or streaming or anything like, or recording, because you can record in the headset as well. So that's pretty impressive. In terms of longevity, there is a concern around the fact that the Quest is effectively running a slimmed down dedicated mobile phone. So in all mobile phones, in all Android devices that I've had, over time the battery life has reduced. That's probably going to happen in the Quest. Now the Quest has only been out for a year, I've only had mine for a week, so there's no way I can really speculate about how well the battery will age. I don't even know if you can change the battery out for another one further down the line. I would speculate, and it is a speculation, that 5 years from now you're still going to get a good hour and a half out of it minimum, and that's a pretty decent mobile VR experience. Now that might sound awful and terrible, but if we can change the battery, then it's not going to be an issue. And if the battery ages better than I expect it to, then again it's not going to be an issue. It's just something that it's a possibility, so I wanted to mention it and sort of factor it in so that you can at least go and research it yourself and find the answers to that posing question. So from 15% to fully charged, you're looking at about an hour and a half to fully charge it up, or at least that's my experience of it. And the system is reportedly capable of producing gameplay experience for 2 to 3 hours. Now in VR, that's quite a significant amount of VR gameplay experience. It's not like on a PC where, you know, an 8-hour gaming session is quite normal these days. But in VR, you're standing up, you're far more active, and it's way more immersive and intense than any kind of PC experience can ever possibly provide for you. So 3 hours in VR is quite enough for a single session. And if you're doing like a VR party and everyone's having a go and having a laugh, you're looking at 10-20 minute segments, especially for people new to VR. You don't want to really stretch it out much more than that. So you're going to get quite a few people being able to play on the device in any one sitting, and then you just charge it up for an hour and a half, and you're good to go again. So I think the battery life is quite okay. Obviously, it would be better if it was 6 hours or 8 hours, but 3 hours is adequate. 3 hours is, if it was any less than 3 hours, I think people might be a bit miffed. But 3 hours, I think, is the sweet spot. Anything more than that is a Brucey bonus, but 3 hours is a good amount of time to be able to play. So I've mentioned that the text clarity is far better. Everything seems more vibrant. Everything seems more enhanced, and I believe the lenses have had a completely new manufacturing process applied to them, and everything just feels cleaner and crisper and more punchy. It's amazing, really, that in a completely standalone device that's capable. Now, all of those enhancements are also available in the Rift S. Now, I don't have a Rift S to test, so I'm going on what I've heard and specifications, etc. But you have to factor in, bearing in mind that both these devices, the Rift S and the Quest, cost about the same, £400 to £500. You have to factor in that if you don't have a GPU that's VR capable and a PC that's VR capable, you have to factor in the cost of that as well. Now, when you balance that up, if you're completely going from nothing at all to a full VR experience, you're actually going to be looking at £1,600-1,700 for the Rift S and £500 for the Quest, or £400 if you get the lower storage space. I have spoken to a number of my friends and advised them on what they should be thinking about if they're going to buy into VR at this point in time in 2020. And I would say the Quest. The Quest gives you the freedom to just go anywhere and play at any time. And if you have another friend that's got a Quest, you could both be playing in the same room at the same time in the same game, in a way that's never been done before. It's quite impressive. I'm really excited about the potential and the possibilities of the Quest. And there's a lot of stuff that's coming for the Quest in 2020. I can see a lot of games are going to release on the Quest. I think the Quest is going to be the hot selling VR device of 2020. And it's a complete game changer. So out of the two, and I am spoilt, I guess, because I already have an Oculus Rift. So I kind of have the best of both worlds already. I wouldn't want to pay £500 to upgrade my Rift to a Rift S. I just don't think the change is enough. If it was offering full HD, like super HD quality, then yes, I probably would do. But the enhancements, as good as they are, and they are considerably better than in the Rift, the Rift isn't bad enough to just write it off like that. Maybe if I could sell the Rift and offset the cost of that towards buying a Rift S, then maybe that's viable, and I might consider doing that now that I've played on the Quest. But if you were just getting into VR for the first time, I'd say the Quest is the way to go, unless you're specifically looking for PC VR experiences. If you're looking to play Project Cars 2 and things like that, then okay, the Rift S might be a more viable solution. But until we get the cable that allows us to connect the Quest to your PC and play PC VR games, then the jury's out on that one. If that experience is hampered by the 72 FPS, then okay, Rift S would win out, but only just. If the experience when we plug in the cable is good, then the Quest wins hands down outright every time. It's just such a good experience. And bearing in mind that if you've got the 3-hour gaming experience just running off the device itself, when it's plugged in, presumably it's going to be taking power as well. So now you've got 8-hour VR sessions available to you, which is quite a task. Every way I look at this, the Quest comes out on top. So for now, the trade-off is that the Rift S has more games available and higher FPS, and really that's it. And when the Quest gets the connecting cable for the PC, I can't see how anyone would prefer the Rift S over the Quest. I mean, there are advantages to having the Rift S, but they're so small in comparison to the advantages that you get with a completely free standalone VR experience. It's insane. And not forgetting, of course, and I'll sign off here for the QCR, that the Quest can track your hands as well now. It's all in beta, there's no games available for it, but this device is astounding. It's a massive leap forwards in the VR arena, and I'm massively impressed. So hopefully, guys, that's given you a really quick insight into the Quest. There's a lot more I want to talk about, and I'll put that in the rest of this video. So if you want to keep watching, keep watching. If you've got all the information that you need and you're on your way to go buy a Quest, or maybe you're not, then thank you for watching. Please hit that thumbs up like button if you enjoyed this video. It's so important to channels like mine. And if you want to subscribe. If you want to leave me a comment, anything you think I've forgotten or got wrong, because that does happen, please let me know in the comment section below. But for now, thank you and goodbye.